بسم الله. حديث السادس number 2. 1, 2, 3 بسم الله. You good to go? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف وانه عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور. ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمش في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الحمير. ألم تروا أن الله سخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وأسبغ عليكم نعمه ظاهرة وباطنة
ومن الناس من يجادل في الله بغير علم ولا هدى ولا كتاب منير وإذا قيل لهم اتبعوا ما أنزل الله قالوا بل نتبع ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا أولو كان الشيطان يدعوهم إلى عذاب السعير. صدق الله العظيم.
Do I need this? That's good?
Yeah.
Yeah. السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ready? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Today, inshallah ta'ala, the topic is he was sent to perfect moral character. And this talk will be about the effect of moral character when given dawah, when calling someone to Allah Jalla wa'ala. So, firstly, a few basic points is that it's important, one, to understand the importance of dawah and the importance of good character, having good character or morals. or etiquette or adab, whatever word that you use, the importance of it Islamically, and especially when it comes to giving da'wah, calling someone to the truth, telling someone about Islam, correcting someone's mistake, or anything along those lines. To show the importance of good character and moral character, at the end of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, his book Al-Aqidah al-Wasatiyah, which is a book of Aqidah, a book filled with Aqidah. At the end of the book, Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah, he says, وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالصَّبْرِ عِنْدَ الْبَلَاءِ وَالشُّكْرِ عِنْدَ الرَّخَاءِ. And this is at the end of the book, after he discusses the details of Aqidah, how to believe in Allah, the Asma wa Sifat of Allah Jalla wa Ala. He says, and this is in the description of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people who follow and attribute themselves to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, وَيَدْعُونَ إِلَى مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ وَمَحَاسِنِ الْأَعْمَالِ. And they call the people, meaning the people of the Sunnah, those people who follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, they call the people to the best, having the best adab, the best character. Having the best character. Now, it's important to understand what is khuluq, what is considered character. And as the ulama explained, that it is the surah al-batina, the inside, right? And it becomes apparent on the outside regarding how a person's relationship with Allah Jalla wa Ala, and including a person's relationship with the rest of creation, whether it's family, whether they're Muslims that we're dealing with, whether they're non-Muslims that we're dealing with, that all of these things fall under the category of adab, or morals, character, adab, etiquette, whichever word you prefer to use. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to read from a book that was compiled by myself and Brother Ali a few years back. And the book is specifically dealing with the topic today. And it's regarding how to call to Allah, and some specifics on calling to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, we hope that within the next few weeks that we can have the book printed for distribution, inshallah ta'ala. And even the title of the book was based on a time where a friend of ours passed away, rahimahullah, Zaki Salahuddin. And during that time, it was some fitna, some trials that the community as a whole that we were going through. And at the time, his death, rahimahullah, pushed. It was a push and an encouragement for us to compile the book, and we compiled it, alhamdulillah. And inshallah, we're going to try to have it printed for distribution soon, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The book itself is titled, Talk to Your Brother Before It's Too Late. Talk to your brother before it's too late. And what we did was we gathered statements or advice, different pieces of advice from Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala. And most of them can be found in his Majmu' Fatawa, his book of Fatawa. And the book itself, everything is referenced, the page number and all of that. So the text itself is not translated with the actual question, but all of the text is regarding calling to Allah, for the da'i, for the person calling someone to the truth. How do you deal with it, and how should a person, man or woman, carry themselves when they're telling someone about Islam, when they're telling someone about the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they're correcting a person's mistake. So what we did was we compiled the answers, again, without the questions, to make it easier to read, and everything is there. And it's worth mentioning that, as it says in the introduction, calling to Allah Jalla wa Ala, as some people have misunderstood, that da'wah to Allah, calling to Allah, is not restricted to ulama, to scholars. It's not restricted to scholars, and it's not restricted to talab al-ilm, students of knowledge, whereas though a person may think, since I'm not a student, I'm not a scholar, I don't have to give da'wah. Da'wah is out of my league. That's not part of my job, which is a common misconception. It's a mistake and it's a misunderstanding. And a person is to call to the truth based on his or her ability. Salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Based on his or her ability to spread the truth. It doesn't mean that everyone is on the same level. It doesn't mean that everyone has to travel. It doesn't mean that everyone has to give a khutbah. It doesn't mean that everyone has to give a muhadara, a talk, or a lecture. But everyone is to work in their capacity. Whatever I'm able to do to spread the truth, then I spread the truth. As Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, he said in his, if a person has insight as to what he is calling to, there's no difference if a person knows what they're talking about. For the person with ilm, specifically on the information that they're relaying, specifically the issue that is at hand that you're talking about, that you're telling somebody about. He said if a person has insight to what he or she is calling to, then there's no difference between the scholar that the people go to for counsel, or the student of knowledge, or the general person. But he said the person must know the issue that he is calling or addressing to with complete certainty. Now, if we think about it, how many things do we know, right? Whatever level it is, that other Muslims or non-Muslims may not know, that we know with complete certainty that we're able to relate. And it could be basics if we don't understand, because this da'wah is not restricted to the Muslims. It's not restricted to the Muslims inside of our masjid, right? So if we think about it, as some Christians think, and they believe that Muslims worship Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So how many of us are not able to, if we say we're not scholars, we're not students, it's not on me to give da'wah, but you know for sure that Muslims don't worship Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we don't worship the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So at this point, we're able to give da'wah in this capacity at the least, which you never know could change a person's view on their total outlook on Islam based on a simple misconception that they might have. He says, so a person has to have certainty, complete certainty of what they're talking about, and this is due to the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, "Balligh anni walau ayah." He said, narrate from me, spread the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, spread the truth, even if it's one verse. It's not a necessity that we have to be the most learned people, that we had to study the longest in order to relay the truth. So it's not a condition of the amount of knowledge. The amount of knowledge is not the shart, is not the condition. But what is the condition is that the person has to have knowledge of the issue that they're talking about. They have to have knowledge of the issue that they're talking about. And then he said, rahimahullah, Shaykh Salih Thameen, he said, as for the person calling to something based on ignorance, number one, or emotion, then number two, he said, and this is impermissible. It's not permissible to call somebody to something and you don't know that issue you're talking about. Everybody with me? So as none of us can sit back and say, I don't know anything, because this is a statement that is said a lot. I'm gonna just be quiet because I'm a layman, I'm regular, I'm this, I'm that. You have to know something. You know something from Islam with certainty that you're able to relate to someone so that they can have just a little more insight into what Islam is and what do the Muslims believe. So what do you relay? You relay those things that you are certain about, and you stop where you need to stop, which means a person has to know their limits, and they have to fear Allah and know their limits. Therefore, in gathering this, the Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, a famous hadith, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you believes until he wants for his brother or his sister what they want for themselves. The ulama explain in the explanation of this hadith that doesn't just mean, or that means that you want good, just like you want good for yourself, that you want good for your other brothers and your other sisters. You want good for others. And they also say, just like you dislike evil for yourself to come to you, you should dislike evil or harm to come to your Muslim brother or your Muslim sister. Not just everything that we want. That includes the things that we don't want for ourselves, as the ulama explained in the explanation of that hadith. Tayyib, the text of the statements of Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, Sheikh bin Baz, the former mufti, and if we don't know who Sheikh bin Baz is, then we should find out who Sheikh bin Baz is, rahimahullah, in the position he played in not his city. He wasn't a person restricted to a city. He was a person during his time, he went blind at an early age, rahimahullah. He was fully blind, declared to fully blind before he was 20. He was declared blind at 16, if I'm not mistaken, and then legally, totally by 20 years old. And with being blind at 20, Allah blessed him to be the mouthpiece Islamically for a country. Therefore, when religious verdicts were being discussed, and when somebody had to speak for the country, not for the city, not for the masjid, not the board of a masjid or specific area, for the country, he was the mouthpiece during his time. He was the mufti of Saudi Arabia during his time, Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah. So now we're talking about a person who is responsible for, Islamically, it's a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight on his shoulders. So what is important, and what I want us to focus on today, inshallah, is the words that he uses when advising, how to give advice. He says, number one, he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, pray that Allah the Most High guides the person that you're giving dawah to and grants him success by accepting the truth, and while doing so, be steadfast and have patience. We all have to, in order to make it make sense, for it to stick, you have to think about people that you've come across that are not very polite. They're not very accepting of what you're saying. They're not people who have much respect for what you believe. But yeah, we're not talking about the people that are easy. They're on the fence. All they need is a little more information. We're talking about people who may know nothing. They don't know anything about Islam. All they know is maybe what they see on the news. It's foreign, totally foreign to them. Okay? They don't know any Muslims personally. And the Muslims that they do know, right, they may have categorized them as not real Muslims, right? So we're talking about people who are not right there. You tell them one more thing and they're going to be, no. Deal with people who are, with you, they're harsh. What do we want for the people? First, he says, pray. Make dua that Allah Jalla wa Ala guides the person, right? He says, pray for their success. What is their success at this point? That Allah grants them to accept the truth. The point of dawah, that we want the person to accept the truth. As he says later, we're not calling people so that we can look like we have more knowledge than anybody else. That's not the qasd, that's not the intention behind dawah or trying to teach somebody. He says, you do all of this while having patience, a sabr. Having patience. Don't get tired and lose hope, because we think because we've done our best that we can do, since I did the best that I can do in telling this person about Islam. We think that because we've done our best in putting forth effort and trying to call a person, we think that what? I gave them the best that I could give them. So what does that mean? They're supposed to do what? Huh? They're supposed to do what? I gave them the best that I could give them. So he's supposed to, or she's supposed to accept it. Why are they supposed to? Because I gave them the best that I can do. I spoke to them the best way possible. I gave them all the dalil, the ayat, and the hadith. All right? I gave them everything they needed. So some of us, we think that because I did all of that, that what? They're supposed to accept, and they're going to accept. But they might not, because we don't make Muslims. We don't make people believe. All we do is what? Spread the information. It's not on us to make people believe. So we don't make women believe so that we can marry them. Women don't make men believe so that you can marry them. We don't make people believe. We don't try to make. All we do is give them, we give them, we spread the knowledge. We spread from what we know of truth, we spread it to the best of our ability. Pay attention to the words. He says, don't say anything except that it's good when you're addressing people. Next, don't use harshness or say evil things that will push people away from the truth. Don't use harshness or say anything evil that's going to do what? Push a person away from the truth. But what about when they talk crazy to me? They have no respect because we get defensive. We get defensive. But the da'i, the person that's calling, that's giving information, you have to be ready. As they say, you have to have thick skin. The fact that they're ignorant and that they're talking to you disrespectful, it doesn't give us, we don't have a green pass. It doesn't give us the green light not to behave like a Muslim now. It doesn't give us a green light. We don't find that in the sunnah of our messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. We don't find that, as he's going to show in the ayat coming. It says, don't do any harshness or evil that will push a person away. Now, this is for what? If a person goes overboard, of course, that depends on the situation. It's not like, well, what if they say this? Well, if they say this, then you can just do that. Right? That's not the case. Everything is a case by case. How far somebody goes. How far somebody goes is going to depend how you deal with them. We're talking about generally. Also, the origin is that we deal with people and we say the best thing, hoping that they accept the truth. Tayyib. He says, this is just like Allah said in the Quran, where Allah says, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. Where Allah says, do not debate and argue with the people of the book, except when you talk to them. When you talk to them, that you talk to them أحسن بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. You talk to them with respect. You talk to them with good words. This is dawah. Dawah is not, I'm telling you, this is not dawah. I'm telling you this, so it must be right, so you're supposed to take what I'm saying. That's not dawah. It's not how dawah works. Since I'm saying it, and I am who I am, and you are who you are, and I'm on the truth, and you're not on the truth, since I'm telling you now today, I'm giving you the haqq, that you're supposed to accept it. And if you don't accept it, then what? You're going to hell. That's not dawah. And that's not how the Messenger ﷺ gave dawah. And that's not how we find it in the Quran nor in the Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ. That because I'm me, or whoever I think I am, and you are not, and I'm on the truth and you're not, since I'm telling you this today, you have to accept it. Dawah doesn't work like that. And that's why Allah said, don't argue with the people of the book, except that you speak to them in the best way. In the best way. And it's not rocket science. More than likely, normally, if you speak to people nice, they're more likely to do what? At the least. At the least, they'll listen. If you're speaking to them nice, at the least, they'll listen to you. That's a nice, okay. He was real respectful. She was real respectful. At the least. That doesn't mean they're going to turn around and accept Islam because of what you said. It doesn't mean that. But at the least, they'll listen. Right? Based on you speaking to them nice. So the fact that at the least you get an ear about being nice. Right? So don't speak to them except that you speak to them with gentleness and niceness. So at the least they listen. Tayyib. He says after that, he says when advising a person who makes a mistake, regardless if that person who makes a mistake, Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah. Tayyib, it's Sheikh bin Baz. It's not my statement. It's all the statement of Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah. He says it doesn't prevent the person who makes a mistake, whether the person who makes a mistake is who? From the people of knowledge. Do Ahlul Ilm, do Ahlul Ilm, is it possible that a person of knowledge, is it possible that a scholar can make a mistake? This is a yes or no question. Yes, it's possible. It's possible. It's not a trick question, but we're living in a time where some people have been deceived by the shaitan to think, and they've raised some of the creation to the point that they're not allowed to make mistakes. It's impossible that the sheikh made a mistake. And this has nothing to do with the honor of Ahlul Ilm, the people of knowledge. Nothing to do with that. We're talking about the reality of human beings. The reality of human beings is that nobody's perfect. Based on Kullu Bani Adam Khatta'un, the Prophet ﷺ said. All of Bani Adam make mistakes. But the best who make mistakes are those who repent. And the other hadith, إِذَا اجْتَهَدَ الْحَاكِمُ, for the ruler, the one who's made a ruler between two parties, if they make a decision, if they rule in something and they're correct, then they get how many rewards? 2. But if they're wrong, based on the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, if they're wrong, then they still get what? 1 reward. It's possible they can be wrong. So he says, even if the person who makes a mistake is from the people of knowledge or from the du'a, a caller, whether the mistake is an action that they did, or the way they're giving the dawah, or just the path that they're taking, whatever it is. He says, the person who corrects them and guides to the truth, that they do it with excellent speech, not with evil. Excellent. The best way. The best way. That's the asl. The best way, the origins that we start what? The origins that we soft with people. We don't start every hard with everybody. There's a time and a place for harshness. And there's a time and a place for leniency and gentleness and softness. Right? If you're talking about dawah, and you're trying to call somebody to the truth, is it realistic? Realistically, is anybody going to accept you talking to them with some type of aggression and you talking down to them and you talking like you better than them? Is anybody going to accept that? Realistically, who's going to accept that? But listen, you're 100% right. The information you have is 100% correct, because you're telling them what? Ayat from the Quran. You're giving them a hadith from Bukhari and Muslim, all authentic information, right? The information is what? Correct. But the delivery is trash, as they say. All right? The delivery is all wrong. Is it realistic that somebody's going to accept that? And do we honestly think, before Allah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, do we honestly think that we can talk to people in a degrading tone? We talk to them like, sometimes people talk to grown men and women, they're talking to them like children. Why? Because I have the truth and you don't. So I'm telling you like this. Do we really, really think somebody's going to accept that? Do we really think that that's enough before Allah? That's enough? You really think you did enough? That was the best you could do? For somebody to accept Islam, that you talk to him like that? He says that you talk to him with excellent speech, not having evil thoughts, or by using harshness in his approach. So all of us, we got to look at our own selves when we explain Islam, and when people talk to us, and when we talk to people, and we give out the information that we know. Are we following the guidelines laid down in the Quran and in the Sunnah? If we look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, we know there was a Jewish man who used to do what? Put thorns in front of his house. We know all of those narrations. How did he respond? The man who came when he was with Aisha radiallahu anha, and he said, "Death be upon you." Right? All of that. But how did he respond? Did he, as we say, did he come out of character? Alayhi salatu wassalam. Where do we find in Islam, in the Quran or in the Sunnah, that if somebody gets out of line with us, it's a green light to go to what we used to do? Or it's a green light to go to what the people in my area do. If somebody does this, this is how we deal with them. We don't find it. Not in the text. Now, with the Muslims in your area, wherever you are, that might be something that we talk about revelation. In revelation, with the revelation, we don't find a green light. Not even in times of war. We don't find a green light just to leave off the revelation. Tayyib. He says, if you do this, that you shouldn't be using harshness in the approach. He said, in fact, this will chase more people away from the truth than call them to it. Right? That means we have to humble ourselves. That because you are who you are, right? Everybody in this room, what people know you for, whatever that is, for the sisters, whatever it is that people know you for, because you say something, doesn't mean that the person that you're talking to is going to accept it. It doesn't necessitate that. But all we're worried about is, am I in line with the Quran? Am I in line with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ when I tell the people? Whatever I'm telling them, am I in line correctly? Am I doing it the best way that I can do? He says, this is going to chase people away. He said, rahimahullah, when Allah sent Harun and Musa, alayhimus salam, to who? The most evil person, which was who? Fir'aun. Fir'aun. Harun and Musa went to Fir'aun. Allah told him in the Quran, فَقُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Say to him what? Soft, say something nice to him. Fir'aun. And we talking to people that, are nowhere near that level of evil. Some people that we talking to, they may be nice people, but they don't understand. They don't believe what we believe. So because they don't believe what we believe, does that give us the green light to disrespect them? Or use words, well, they kafirs anyway. Right? That doesn't give us the green light to be disrespectful. They mushriks anyway. We don't find that anywhere in the Quran or in the Sunnah. You don't find that anywhere. You don't find the green light to be disrespectful because people don't accept what you're saying. The only thing is on us is what? To relay the information. How do we relay it? How do we want to relay it? In the best way possible, with the hopes that the person listening will accept what we're saying. And if they don't, then what? I've done my job. I've done my wajib. I've done what's obligatory for me to do, based on what I know, based on my knowledge. He says that, say to him, meaning Harun and Musa, say to Fir'aun a statement that is soft, mild. Why? He says, Allah said, لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. Maybe from that statement that you say, maybe from being nice and talking like that, maybe Fir'aun, that evil, wicked man, maybe by you speaking nice to him, he says maybe he will accept the advice. Or yakhsha, or he will fear Allah and stay away from what he's been doing. Maybe by talking nice. This is the Quran, right? And so the Dawah, ayah number 44. Maybe by the mild statement, being soft and speak and the way you talk to him, maybe that he will remember Allah and he will turn and do things that are beneficial. Or maybe he will fear Allah and leave off the things that are harmful to him. Are we talking about who? Fir'aun. We're not talking about Methalan, for example, let alone another Muslim. Let alone another Muslim who already has the Shahada and believes what you believe. Believes like we believe, but they have some mistakes, no doubt. They do this wrong, this is a mistake here, this is a mistake here. If Harun and Musa alayhi salam were commanded to speak to Fir'aun with softness, then where do we find that we can just talk to each other any type of way? And then when a person shuts down and doesn't want to hear what we have to say because they've been totally disrespected, we say what? They don't really want the truth. That's not a fair assessment. That's not being just and it's not being honest. He says after that Allah Jalla wa Ala told the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam in the Quran how to deal with the people. And he said that, and he told the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that it wasn't for Allah's mercy that he would have been, the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he would have dealt with the people harsh. And it would have caused the people to run away and not listen to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why Allah said in the surah, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. By Allah's mercy, By Allah's mercy, you were gentle with them. You had mercy with them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. And if you were to be harsh with the people that you're talking to, if you were to be harsh with them, then the ayah says what? They would have broken and fled away from you. Dawah, brothers, dawah doesn't mean that the people we're talking to are going to accept anything we're saying. And if we think that, then we're making a big mistake in the approach. We're making a mistake in the way we're approaching it. We tell and explain and deliver what we know based on our level of knowledge to the best of our ability. Best. The person accepting it, the person responding with good adab and manners, they might respond and they still ignorant. They might scream at you. They might. You talking to them nice with respect and they talk to you disrespectful, maybe. The fact that we're telling a person something or that we would deliver dawah the best way that we're possible doesn't mean that people are going to accept it. But at least we know before Allah. At least we know when we do that, we know that we've done our job. We've carried out the dawah according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. That we followed the revelation and the way we spread the truth. Allah said in another ayah where He commanded the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to deal with the people with wisdom and excellent speech. Maw'idah hasana. Nowhere are we going to find, y'all, nowhere do you find that it's okay because they're not Muslims or because they're on bid'ah, because they're not on bid'ah but they have mistakes. Nowhere you're going to find that you can go disrespect them. You can treat them hard and, make them feel bad when they come around. When they get to a certain point, the initial dealing with a person is what? Husnul dhan. They don't know. Obviously, the brother or the sister doesn't know. They're doing that because they don't know. They're ignorant, right? Husnul dhan. You get to them, you find out they do know. Okay, now they do know. They do know. Okay, maybe they misunderstood the text. Something that they misunderstood. At this point, this is not the time for harshness. This is the time for, especially if you don't know a person. Who walks up on strangers and just talks disrespectful to strangers? Who does that? Huh? Now, I'm not talking about in here. In general, in the world we live in, who walks up to strangers and just starts talking disrespectful to them? Crazy people. There you go. So how is it that we'll come to a person, a believer? You don't know him from a can of paint, a believer, right? Because they don't know, they're wrong. They're dead wrong. And we do what? Just talk to them disrespectful. If we think about it, it doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense that you walk up to a stranger and, as we say, you start talking crazy. You're talking aggressive. You're telling them this, you're telling them that. No gentleness, no softness at all. It doesn't make sense. If you think about it logically, it doesn't even make sense. If somebody walked up to you and told you you're parked in the wrong spot, and they were talking aggressive to you about your parking space, right? We got a problem. We have a problem with that. I don't know why you're talking to me like that. We're talking about a parking space in the car, let alone you're talking about somebody's deen, right? Nobody does that. It's not something that's acceptable. طيب. Allah said, "Udu ila sabili rabbik bil hikmah wal maw'idatil hasana wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan." Call to the way of your Lord with what? Wisdom, hikmah, wal maw'idatil hasana. Good speech. Talk to them the best way possible. So now the question is, we got to think, where does this come from? That we can talk to people any type of way, and that adab is not important, and that moral character is not something that is important in dawah. Where does that come from? That's the question. Because we find in the Quran, throughout the Quran, that we're commanded to use, be gentle, be soft, right? Be gentle, be soft, use the best speech. This is what we're commanded with in the Quran. Tayyib. Shaykh ibn Baz rahimahullah, he said after that this command about using hikmah, does anyone know what hikmah is? Wisdom? Not the translation. It's translated to mean wisdom. But what is wisdom? Huh? Mumtaz, to put things in its proper place. Everything has a time and a place. Everything has a time and a place. And he even mentions, Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah even mentions, sometimes it's not the best time. Sometimes it's not the best, it's a bad time right now. Sometimes it's a bad time. They're not, whatever you get ready to tell them is not the time for them. It's not right. That's not right now. Now, at that point, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get the person to accept what you're saying, or are you just trying to say, I told them? What's the cost? What's the point? What's the intent from the person? Every time is not the right time. Hikmah, wisdom. What's the best time? What's the best way to do it? That's if a person is serious about the person you're talking to accepting what you're saying. If you're just trying to show people you know what you're talking about, and I told him, but she didn't listen to me, or he didn't listen to me, then that's a different situation. If a person is serious about somebody accepting what they're saying, then you have to pick the right time. You have to pick the right words. You have to know what not to say. And when you do that, it's going to affect the way the people receive what you're saying. It shows that you care. And that takes effort. That's not you just pop up and say whatever's on your mind. I'm just one of them type people. I just say what's on my mind. That's no excuse. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse to disrespect people. That's just how I am. Well, that's a problem. You need to be however you are. If it's not in line with the Quran, the Sunnah, the Revelation, then you need to revisit how we should be in that realm of whatever you're doing. We can't use it, that's just how I am, and think that that's a green light for us to do whatever we want to do. Tayyib. He says, after that, where Allah commanded the Prophet ﷺ to use hikmah, to use wisdom and good speech, and to argue with them in the best way, he said, this is not restricted, and this is not only for the Messenger ﷺ. And now he mentions the qaida here. It says, the commands that Allah gives the Prophet ﷺ are for the ummah. When the Prophet ﷺ is commanded with something, that command is for the ummah, everybody. So it doesn't mean that he ﷺ was commanded to be nice and gentle and dawah, but we in America, New York, the people up here are a little rough, so we can get a little more, be a little more rude with ours, because that's, no. It doesn't mean that. And it also doesn't mean, it means that, of course, there may be words here in New York that are not acceptable in Philly. There may be words in Philly that are not acceptable in New York. You have to know the people in your area, what's considered disrespectful and what's not considered disrespectful. There are some words and some things that we all may agree on, but then there's some things that's specific to your area. And if you know in your area, if somebody says this, right? If somebody says this to you up here, then it really means this, then everybody has that in every city pretty much. That you have to know the people you're talking to, know the language, and know the customs of those people. He says, so that command of having wisdom is not restricted to the Prophet ﷺ. It's for the ummah. So when Allah commands the Prophet ﷺ with something, that command is for the ummah, unless there's some dalil specific that shows that that was only for the Messenger ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ, of course, was sent as an example. He was sent as an example. So he says here, Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah, it is upon the person giving dawah, the caller. And y'all got to understand, the caller doesn't mean that a person sits here and does this. You go to work, everybody knows you're a Muslim. At that point, everything you do is dawah. Okay, sisters, nobody walks around in this heat, covered like our women. Allah raise them, give them Jannah, and forgive them for their sins, and make them better than we think they are. Right? The fact that our women walk around the way they walk around is dawah, period. You don't have to be on the microphone. So somebody's going to come and ask you, they're going to come and ask you, are you hot? Yeah. And it's not the first person. 10 people ask you that today, Tayyib. Because she's the 11th person, that makes it okay for you to snap on her? And disrespectful and scream at her? Not if you're really concerned about the image of Islam. They don't know. How do you expect them to act? right? They don't know. So that command of using wisdom and being gentle is for everybody. So he says after that, a person has to be patient, and he pay attention to the words. He says that you are not hasty in cursing people. You're not hasty in cursing people. And the curse in Arabic is not necessarily the curse in English. The curse in Arabic is generally saying anything disrespectful to a person, not like necessarily a curse word. But you can say something disrespectful that in English is not a curse word, right? Right? There's plenty of things to say. It's not necessarily a curse word, but it's still disrespectful to a person. So if we're not allowed to say disrespectful words to a person, let alone curse at a person, let alone curse at a person, and then we tell them we giving them the truth, right? He says, or using evil speech. You are not hasty. Don't use evil speech. Don't be harsh. Again, but you must be easy, have mercy, and be gentle. Easy with the people, have mercy with them, be gentle with them. This is the da'i. When you're dealing with people and it's possible they have no regard or respect for what you're saying. You telling them ayat and they say what? They don't believe in the ayat that you're reciting to them. They don't believe it. Right? Anybody ever had that done? You telling somebody Allah says in the Quran, they don't believe in the Quran. So now what's the next step? You telling them a hadith. What is a hadith? You're talking to people who don't know any of that. Right? Anybody ever been through that? No? Huh? So how do you deal with the person? You telling them well, Allah said in the Quran, and they looking at you like, number one, they don't know what the Quran is. Number two, they don't know that we believe that the Bible was revealed. They don't know we believe in Isa alayhi salam. We believe in Jesus. They don't have any backdrop. All they know is you're coming, you're a foreign person, you have this religion, and you're trying to tell me that your book says this. So they might respond rude. They might say something disrespectful to you. But he says what? That you have mercy, that you're gentle, that you be easy with them. And he brings the same ayat again. The same ayah he repeats again. That when he sent Harun and Musa to Fir'aun, that he said what? Say to him something soft, easy to Fir'aun. Don't go to him and scream at them because they don't believe, because they're not accepting the hadith. You tell them, you'd be surprised, brothers. You tell a non-Muslim, you can find these hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. Come on. Allah musta'an. Allah musta'an. You tell a non-Muslim they can find it in Bukhari and Muslim. You don't think it's people, there's people that do that. I gave them all of it from Bukhari and Muslim. I said they don't know what Bukhari and Muslim is. Why would they take that? That's not even, logically it doesn't make sense. But people do it, right? The reality is, when we give dawah like that, is it realistic that a person is going to accept that? Realistically. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tayyib. He says after that, he brings a hadith where in this hadith is a dua of the Prophet ﷺ against the person, the dua against the person, where the Prophet ﷺ made dua against the person who is put in charge of the Muslims and they're harsh and they put hardship on the Muslims. He said in this hadith is an Aisha radiallahu anha in Sahih Muslim, Allahumma man waliya min amri ummati shay'an fashaqqa alayhim fashquq alayh wa man waliya min amri ummati shay'an farafaqa bihim farfuq bih. That whoever is a dua from the Prophet ﷺ, oh Allah, whoever is put in charge of something from the believers with the Muslims and they are hard on the Muslims, they make it difficult on the Muslims, then he says be difficult with them. Ask Allah to be difficult, to make things hard for that person. What person? The one who's being hard on the Muslims. And he says, and whoever is put in charge of something from my ummah and they're soft and gentle with them, oh Allah, be soft and gentle with that person. Being harsh is not is not the dawah we find in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not what we find in the Quran. So the question now is, where does it come from, and why do we think, some of us think that that is the way, and what makes it acceptable? And then we say, sunnah. But sunnah is that the man put thorns in the pathway, and the Prophet ﷺ still asked about them. Sunnah is that the man made dua for death on him and he didn't respond like that. Quran says that when you go to Fir'aun, say something soft. Where does the harshness come in that we think that shows that I'm really giving dawah because I'm being harsh? We don't find it in the revelation. And then the Prophet ﷺ says in another hadith, "Man yuhram al-rifq, yuhram al-khayr kullah." That whoever is prevented from being gentle with people, then they have been prevented from all types of good by not being what? Not being gentle and soft with people. After that, he moves on and he mentions another hadith, and we know many of these are hadith, but the point is not just knowing the narrations. The point is knowing how to implement them. At-tatbiq. Implementing the narrations. And we're going to stop here where the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, "Inna rifqa la yakunu fi shay'in illa zana, wa la yunza'u min shay'in illa shana." That gentleness is not put into something except that it does what to your call. It beautifies it. It makes it look better. It's more receptive. A person is more likely to receive what you're saying when you're talking to him with some respect. And he said gentleness is not removed from something except that it removes the beauty. So when you talk disrespectful and rude, it removes the beauty out of what you're saying. Yeah, you're reading the ayah. Ayah is haqq, it's from the Quran. You're reading a hadith, authentic hadith. But the way you're talking and the way the delivery, it removes the beauty found in it. So a person doesn't accept what you're saying. And then we turn around and say, what? They ain't really want the truth. They just wanted to argue. Nah, we have to make sure that we're doing our best based on my ability. It doesn't mean you have to speak like him or you have to speak like this one. Or you, no. The best that you can do. The best that you can do. So he says, last thing, we'll stop here, that the caller has to have patience, whether you're dealing with the leader, what is the benefit of being soft and gentle with the leader, y'all? A leader who has a bunch of people following, a bunch of people who respect him or her. Huh?
If you benefit the leader, it benefits the people.
Allah Akbar. If the leader benefits from what you're saying, more than likely the people that respect the leader are going to fall in line with the leader. They're going to follow the leader, as they say, right? If it's the leader that we treat them all the same, that we speak with respect. He says perhaps that will affect others. The same goes for the person, as he says, the same goes for the individual who has internalized innovation, bid'ah, and ma'asi, sinning. That we deal with these people, he says, wherein they've been upon bid'ah for years, practicing the innovation. They've been disobedient to Allah for years. He says, this person, he is in need of patience until the innovation is removed. We tell people one time, and we didn't give it our best. Or even if we did give it our best, they don't accept it, we say what? As we say in Philly, I'm done with bull. Right? That's what we say in Philly. I don't know what they say up here. We say, I'm done. I'm finished with him, or I'm finished with her. I'm done with him. Why? Because I told them once and they didn't respond. That's not dawah. And that's not the correct path for dawah. And we'll stop there. I ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to forgive us for any shortcomings. And inshallah ta'ala, we want to try to make this book available for the public, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, inshallah ta'ala. Question?
Yes. I wanted to ask, like what you just said, at what point, when we trying to give dawah to somebody, at what point do we say, they ain't going to accept it, I'm not going to, keep going? Or if we give dawah to a person at one point and they kind of make their position clear, should we give it to them again,
Good question. Everybody get the question? At what point do we stop giving dawah to people? How long did Nuh alayhi salam give dawah to his people? 950 years. How long we give dawah to people generally? The same person. Come on. Now, if they shut down and they don't want to hear anything we have to say, does that mean the dawah stops? How does the dawah continue when they don't want to hear anything else you have to say? Behavior, treatment. The dawah never stops, especially for us. We under the microscope. Especially if you have a beard, especially if you show any sign of Islam. Even if your name, you have a Muslim name, the dawah never stops. We're a minority. The dawah doesn't stop. The microscope is always on us. Now, if you got henna in your beard, then that's just a whole nother level that you can't hide. And your beard is big, you got a sajda mark, you can't hide. Our women can't hide, brothers. Our women are not, they can't hide. They can't hide. And we need to have mercy on our women. They can't hide. We can come outside. Maybe my beard, I'm in an area where the beard is just fashion. I come outside with no signs of Islam. So if I jump out of character, what? They might not attach it to Islam, but can our women do that? But guess what? That doesn't really matter because before Allah is Al-Alim. Allah knows. Allah knows. So we don't stop giving dawah, but we might have to change the way we're giving dawah. Okay, the conversation's not going too good, so we can't talk, but at the least I can show what Islam did for me. This is Islam. I live like this because I'm a Muslim. I treat people like this because I'm a Muslim. And that's what they said in the seerah. And we're going to stop here where they went and they went to do business, and the people asked them, why do y'all behave like that? What makes you people do business the way you're doing business? And they said, what? Islam. We're Muslims. This is how we've been taught by our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We'll stop there. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.